Oh yeah.
Mango. So what is going on? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I really need to come out with a new intro because I say the same thing every time and I'm sure you're getting tired of hearing it. But before we get today's video started, I want to give a huge shout out to Uncle Elroy in the comments. His actual name's Kyle, but he sent me, if you guys don't know, all I've talked about when we go to like Dallas or Houston is going through Buc-ee's, and they have these really amazing cookies. And last time actually Joe was in Dallas, he picked me up some cookies because he knows how much I rave about these cookies. And let me show you them real quick because Uncle Elroy actually sent us some. So huge shout out to Uncle Elroy for sending those over, really appreciate it. And we'll have to read the little note that he got us. So here they are. If you are in the Dallas area or near a Buc-ee's, these cookies are legit. Feel free to send as many as possible. Even though I'm dieting, I will fit these in my diet somehow. Beaver Nugget Cookie Cousin. They're really good. They're crunchy and they're sweet. And I typically only like soft cookies. I'm sending some beef jerky also. Delicious. I typically only like really soft and gooey cookies. I know that's weird, but these cookies are not only crunchy and hard, but they're salty. That's a really weird combination for cookies, but they are delicious. Anyways, Kyle, aka Uncle Elroy, says, Dave, Kennedy, Joe, Kevin, and Rachel, as promised, here are those cookies and some jerky. This Buc-ee's is brand new, so the stock was very limited. That's unfortunate. I will roll on by shortly and send you enough to stock the pantry. Manager said the delivery truck was still in Houston. Figured Rigo was driving. Oh, man. If you guys don't know the joke, because Rio drives a manual, and we make fun of his shifts, but he's actually really good at shifting. We just make fun of it because it's Rigo and it's funny. Says, keep up with the awesome content. Like always, hit me up when you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Uncle Elroy, we will definitely hit you up. Thank you so much for sending the cookies. And I guess I've got 4 of them, so I got to give some away, unfortunately. Joe definitely deserves one. And Kennedy, actually, every time I have the cookies, Kennedy hasn't even tried one yet. Because last time I had them, I didn't see her for a full week. So I ate them. And then Joe brought me some. And the same thing happened. I shared them with Kevin and Rachel. And the cookies never made it to Kennedy. So we're going to have to definitely give a tub to Kennedy and a tub to Joe. And I guess I could share with Kevin and Rachel. Anyways, today's video, we're actually headed over to Branson's house. So if you guys don't know, Branson had the white 2018 LPF twin turbo Mustang that he picked up in San Antonio. And unfortunately, his first time at the track, he did blow the motor. Okay, try that. Well, just make sure you shift, it gets too high. Not really sure what happened. There could be tons of causes, and with those things you'll never really know the true issue until you actually dive into it. And sometimes even when you dive into the motor and they tear it apart, they have their ideas on what happened, but it's still not a for sure answer. So Branson is actually working with a company. We'll have to ask him to make sure it's Rev something engines, and I think they're out of California, I believe, but that's who his tuner uses and who his tuner recommends. Here's my thing. If you have a tuner, use who they recommend. That way everyone's on the same page. You don't want to use someone that someone else recommends. It's always good to go, the person that's tuning your car, go with the person that they use to build cars that they tune. That's just, it's a good rule of thumb. Then you don't piss anybody off, and that way no one points fingers to blame because they've all worked together before. Anyways, that's who his tuner recommended. So actually tonight he has started pulling the engine out, and he's got to get the long block out, separate the trans from the long block, obviously take all the necessary things off, and then actually ship it out to them so that they can have his core, and then they will ship him a complete long block. So he's not gonna have to install heads or timing chains, any of that good stuff. It's all gonna come as a solid, complete long block. All he'll have to do is attach the transmission and drop it back in there with the turbo kit, fuel system, obviously all the accessories. But it should be a pretty quick swap once he gets it back. I say quick, I mean like he doesn't have to assemble anything, he just has to put it back in the car. So you figure it's probably like an 8 to 10 hour job to get the motor out of there, get the trans out, separate everything, and then ship it. And I believe their turnaround time, I want to say it's like 10 to 12 hours. It's pretty good. 10 to 12 hours, 10 to 12 days. It's actually pretty good. They don't have any ready currently. There's a few companies that do stock them and have them ready to go at any given time. That is a sick ass F-250. Ready to go at any given time, but this specific company, they're only 10 to 12 days out, which is really good. So his plan and goal is to get ready for the flashlight race. If you guys don't know, we have a flashlight race coming up July 27th. I haven't finished the flyer quite yet because we're waiting on a few more sponsors. If you are interested in sponsoring the event, you can email me, davidvanvorst@hotmail.com. We will get you set up, but we are closing it off on Friday. And we don't really need any more sponsors, but the more sponsors, the better, because the more payouts that we can give. We already are paying out $10,000 in winnings. It's pretty crazy for a local event here in Amarillo that Kevin and I just randomly decided to put together. $10,000 already in payouts. Pretty cool. So we're looking for, I think, a couple more sponsors just to take care of like some runner-up money, but it's going to be a huge event. So if you guys are in the area or want to travel, or you need info on the event because you want to race it, let me know. I will get you all the event info, but $10,000 in payouts, pretty cool. So I'm actually gonna drop off a tub of cookies to Joe's house, and then we will get over to Branson's. Look at the progress. How long have you been working on it?
Oops, I just made a mess.
Oh. Oh boy.
What time we get out here, about 6?
She's got the cookies. Oh my.
David knows.
Oh, 6? That's not bad.
No, about 3 hours.
She pulled the rails off, manifold, radiator, all the cold side piping. Whoa, you pulled the headlights like with the radiator support?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pull it all together.
That'd look cool hanging up.
It was way easier doing it like that.
And then pulling them out individually.
Yeah. All it is there's 2 bolts on the top, 2 for the radiator support, and then there's 2 on the headlights.
Damn.
And that whole thing just comes off.
That looks so funny. So what's next?
I don't know yet.
Making good progress. Still hasn't even unhooked the battery though.
Who unhooks the battery? What if I need to start it?
It should fire right up. Damn. So guys, I didn't do too much filming over at Branson's because he had already done a bunch of the work and there wasn't much to be done when I got over there. But this Thursday, I'm gonna go over there and film, and he's actually going to be pulling the motor and transmission out and then getting that shipped off to his builder. Which honestly, for me, it's a good thing because I can learn a few things about pulling that motor and trans out, because someday, hopefully later rather than sooner, I won't be doing that, but there will be a time that comes that I'll be having to pull the motor and transmission out of this car. So for me, it's beneficial, and he needs the help because it's kind of hard to do that on your own. So on Thursday, there will be a part 2 to this. I'll probably post it later on this weekend or even next week, just depending on how the videos work out. But you guys will see his Gen 3 Coyote come out of his car. It's an unfortunate thing, but it is what it is. He's building it stronger, and he's doing it the right way. And he's going to have a nice built motor in there, and that car's going to be making some serious power. We're going to have to be doing something with the tank thing to keep up with Branson's car when he gets it back. But just want to update you guys on my car, because you will have seen the roll race event before this video. So I talked about it a little bit, but I ran into some huge intake air temperature problems. Now, this car cuts timing at 150 degree intake air temps. This car, I pulled it up. So I drove the car there, I aired it down, put the fan on it, put it under the tent. It was just a hot day in general. It's 97 degrees in Texas, 3,500 elevation. The DA was like, I think it ended up being like 7,500 most of the day. It cooled down to about 62, 65 towards the end of the night, but that was way later in the night. Most of the day, most of the passes I made were in 7,500 DA. It was just hot. And so where my turbo is located, you know, my turbo is right around here. There's no, when the hood is closed, there's no fresh air getting to the turbo, keeping the turbo cool. The only air that we have is the air-to-air treadstone intercooler. Now, unfortunately, with the way this bumper is designed, it's blocking a lot of the air. Now, we could have brought the intercooler up and it would have got a little bit more air, but then the bottom would get no air either. So, and then you're blocking more of the radiator. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation almost. Really, if you're gonna run an air-to-air, you need one that's super tall and can cover most of this area. The only problem is then you are blocking some airflow to the radiator. So I have seen people that do a taller intercooler, but it's a little more narrow. It's not as wide as this one, and that helps to get some airflow to the radiator because you can't just block the radiator from airflow. Although the radiator does have fans, it still needs to see some cool airflow. So unfortunately, this intercooler is not working out. I'm sure that this intercooler could make tons of power, and it did. It didn't make tons of power, but it ran really good. The problem is when you try and run back-to-back passes, or if you try and run somewhere such as Texas summers where it's 95 plus degrees out and you're trying to run the car, because that's where it gets hot. You know, the turbos already get super hot, and then you don't have a tons of airflow going to it, so it's just heat soaking itself. So unfortunately, the air-to-air intercooler is not going to work out for this car. I was hoping that it would work out longer than it did, but it's really just not working for this car. Now, I could take it to the track, I could make a pass, let it sit for like an hour, hour and a half, really cool off, and then make another pass, which I might do because I don't really have the means to go pick up an air-to-water quite yet. They are very expensive. Now, with an air-to-water, I'll need an air-to-water intercooler up front. We will have to redo some of the cold side piping that attaches to the intercooler. Then we will have to run some hoses all the way to the back to a pump and then to an ice tank in the back. So there's a lot more pieces to an air-to-water system, but it works way, way better. And Joe had told me when we first did the turbo kit that I should do an air-to-water, and I did say I was going to do one just further down the road, but it's just too hot right now to be running the car with an air-to-air. Now, there's plenty of people making air-to-airs work, but you got to remember my turbo, with it being over here in the corner, it's going to create more heat. It's going to keep more heat in this area, and there's just nowhere for the heat to go. When you've got turbos down below, like some of the kits, the turbos are seeing fresh air from below. When you got the turbos up top, they're not getting too much fresh air, but they are getting more air than, say, the turbo stuck over there in the corner. But there is a lot of people running top mount kits with air-to-waters, so I think it's just the right way to go. Plus, when I want to make more power, I'm definitely going to need an air-to-water anyways, so we might as well upgrade now. The unfortunate thing is that I really need stuff like half shafts, a drive shaft. I still need the 15s. And so the air-to-water has kind of moved up to the list. It was always on the list, but it was a lot further down, and now after seeing 200-degree IATs, I mean, we could have been losing upwards of 75 to 100 horsepower at the top end of the track just because of those IATs. Plus, you don't want to be running the motor that hot anyways. Obviously, when you're on E85, the motor can take a little bit more heat. E85's got a little better cooling properties, but you still don't want to be having 200-degree IATs. It's too much for the car. If it was a little above 150, because it cuts timing at 150, but if it was like 160, 165, those are still high, but we could work with that and the car could cool down a little bit quicker. But with 190 to 200-degree IATs, that's really high. So I ran into the same issue with my Hellcat, but the difference with the Hellcat, all you have to do is add an ice tank because it already has intercoolers made for a liquid cooling system. This only has an air-to-air system. So I will be selling this air-to-air intercooler soon. I've already ordered a small ice tank for the car. Not small, but I've already ordered the ice tank for the car. It's a 7.5-gallon ice tank. We're going to run 1-inch lines, so we're going to run a little bit bigger lines. On my Hellcat, I only ran 3/4 inch. On this, we're going to run 1-inch lines, a little bit bigger tank at 7.5 gallons. Going to get a nice electric Davy Craig's pump back there, and then we're kind of still deciding on air-to-water. I've got a few options, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go with the brand that Joe has on his car because that's proven for like 2,500 horsepower. And so they have different options and smaller air-to-water intercoolers, but Joe's thing with the air-to-water is to just get the bigger one. Pretty much get as big of a one as we can fit in that space without totally blocking the radiator, and because it's better to have more cooling than less cooling so we don't run into these problems again, especially moving forward. So we're gonna do it right. We're gonna do it the first time. We're gonna do it right and not have to do it again. But unfortunately, that does set the Mustang back from doing some other mods. But in the meantime, if the track has a test and tune day, which I think it does in like 2 weeks, then I will take the Mustang to the track and see if we can get down the quarter-mile strip. I'm just really worried the half shafts are gonna break, but I do have a buddy that has some spare half shafts, so if it does break, I'll just replace them with some stock ones because they're cheap. And then that way I can still drive the car around, maybe do some Mexico stuff. I just can't do some track stuff until I get some upgraded G-Force or DSS half shafts. So that's kind of an update on the Mustang and an update on Branson's car. Like I said, the next video or next couple videos, you'll see part 2 of pulling Branson's motor and tram. So hopefully it'll help anyone that has a Gen 3 and they need to know how to pull the motor out. So that's gonna do it for today's video. There's an update on my car, an update on Branson's car. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. As always, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you comment down below, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next one.